The morning started like any other until my phone buzzed with a message that made my blood freeze. Dolores, my neighbor, had sent me a photo that felt like a punch to the gut. In it, a realtor in glossy heels stood in my driveway, pointing at my grandfather's cabin as though it was already on the market. Two strangers in business suits moved across the deck, clipboards in hand, measuring, nodding, acting like they owned the place. My chest tightened. I wasn't selling. Nobody had asked me. Nobody had told me. And yet here they were, parading across my family's land as if I'd signed the deed over in silence. The acrid scent of spilled coffee filled my truck as I gripped the steering wheel, hands trembling with rage. My phone buzzed again, this time with a voicemail from none other than Veronica Ashworth, the HOA president. Just exploring community improvement options. Garrett? Her smug voice dripped through the speaker. Community improvement? Was she serious? Improvement didn't mean selling what wasn't hers. To Veronica, my cabin was a prime piece of property, a canvas for some suburban development scheme. To me, it was sacred ground. That cabin wasn't just wood, nails, and shingles. My grandfather Fletcher built it with his own hands in 1981, after returning from the Korean War with a limp in his leg and shadows in his eyes. He poured everything he had into those 2 acres by the lake, cutting each board himself, hammering every nail, shaping a home where peace finally replaced the sound of gunfire. As a boy, I'd spend summers with him, staining the deck until the sweet scent of pine clung to our fingers for days. He'd smile, eyes full of pride, and tell me, "This is our forever home, Garrett. Nobody can take what you build with your own sweat." Fletcher passed 3 years ago, leaving me the cabin and every memory woven into its walls. It became more than property, it was a lifeline. My daughter Mackenzie, just 16, would escape here whenever home life got heavy. For me, after 60-hour weeks on noisy construction sites, the cabin was my refuge. It was the one place where silence had weight, where I could hear loons call across the lake at dusk and remember what real peace sounded like. But that peace had a target painted on it the day Veronica Ashworth rolled into town. She came from California in a shiny white BMW, nails polished sharp enough to slice through steel. Within weeks, she'd appointed herself queen of the HOA, measuring lawns with a wooden ruler, scribbling citations like a schoolteacher drunk on power. To her, the neighborhood wasn't a community. It was a business opportunity. People like me, with cabins older than the HOA itself, didn't fit into her vision. Her first strike came months ago, a citation for my grandfather's workshop, labeled a non-conforming rustic structure. Translation: it didn't match her cookie-cutter version of paradise. She demanded 15 grand in compliance fees or a rebuild. I told her exactly what she could do with her fee, in words my grandfather would have appreciated. That defiance must have stung, because now here she was, parading a realtor across my land. The worst part? The glossy marketing brochures they carried. One page described my cabin, my family's sanctuary, as a prime tear-down opportunity. They envisioned bulldozing the workshop Fletcher built with weathered hands, replacing it with modern lake access amenities. I stared at those words, jaw clenched so hard it ached. To them, it was a development project. To me, it was my grandfather's legacy. I could already taste the bitterness of the fight ahead. Veronica wasn't just trying to raise property values. She was trying to erase history, bulldoze memories, and sell them off to the highest bidder. But she didn't realize one thing: my family didn't quit. My grandfather hadn't survived frozen foxholes in Korea, so his cabin could be stolen by an HOA tyrant. If Veronica thought this was going to be easy, she had just chosen the wrong battlefield. When the fury cooled enough to think straight, I knew one thing. If I let Veronica play her little legal games unchecked, she'd bury me under paperwork and smug grins. I needed proof. Hard evidence that my cabin wasn't hers to toy with. That's how I ended up in the county clerk's office the next morning, surrounded by the smell of dust, coffee stains, and decades of forgotten paper. The clerk, Beverly, had eyes like she'd seen every scam in the book. When I explained my situation, she leaned back, cracked her knuckles, and said, "Let's dig." Drawer after drawer screeched open until finally, she laid an old survey map on the desk. My grandfather's original deed from 1981. I leaned closer, heart thudding as her finger traced a line across faded parchment. See here? Your property runs 50 feet further north than anyone thought. That community mailbox cluster the HOA loves so much? It's sitting square on your land. I nearly laughed out loud. Veronica had paraded her shiny BMW around that mailbox for 2 years, bragging about her community improvements. Turns out she'd been trespassing the whole time. And then Beverly found the gold. A clause buried in the deed. Grandfathered property rights in perpetuity, with municipal exemptions intact. HOA rules couldn't touch my cabin. They didn't even exist when Fletcher hammered the first board. The clerk looked at me over her glasses. Your grandfather was a smart man. They don't have a legal leg to stand on. For the first time since this nightmare started, the metallic taste of rage eased, replaced by something stronger. Hope. That evening, Dolores knocked on my door carrying oatmeal cookies and a look that meant trouble. She offered me $500, she whispered, glancing over her shoulder. Wanted me to spy on you, take pictures of your truck, your boat, anything she could twist into a violation. My jaw clenched. Veronica wasn't just targeting me. She was running a campaign of fear. Dolores handed me a handwritten list of families already harassed into silence. The Morrisons forced to sell after endless fines, the Pattersons attacked for having too many garden gnomes, the Hendricks family bleeding money because they dared to park their work truck in their own driveway. She's not just after your cabin, Dolores said. She wants anyone gone who doesn't fit her picture-perfect neighborhood. Then her eyes gleamed. And I've been keeping records. She opened a worn folder stuffed with photos, letters, even recordings of Veronica's threats. My mouth fell open. This 70-year-old retired principal had been running her own intelligence operation. She had proof of discrimination, harassment, and even shady financial connections. That night, as we spread documents across my kitchen table, Mackenzie looked up from sorting papers and asked, "Dad, is it illegal to lie in official letters?" I ruffled her hair, pride swelling. She already knew the answer, and she already understood. This fight wasn't just about our cabin. It was about everyone. Veronica struck back fast. A week later, a county truck pulled into my driveway. Out stepped Harold, the code enforcement officer, with Veronica strutting behind him like she owned the world. Harold cleared his throat and read from a sheet, claiming my grandfather's workshop violated modern codes. The punishment? $25,000 in updates or demolition within 30 days. I didn't yell, didn't throw him off my land. Instead, I pulled out my phone and hit record. "Show me the exact codes, Harold." He shifted uncomfortably, eyes flicking to Veronica. Her smug smile faltered. She hadn't expected resistance. By sundown, I tracked down the original contractor from 1983, an old man named Jimmy Kowalski. Not only did he remember the build, but he still had every permit, inspection, and approval tucked away in his basement. Paperwork stronger than Veronica's threats. Then came the real kicker. My security cameras caught her sneaking onto my land at midnight, planting flower pots on the wrong side of the property line. Clear video of her trespassing, tape measure in hand, trying to manufacture violations. She wanted evidence? I had evidence against her. By now, I knew waiting for her next move was a mistake. So I made mine. One Saturday morning, I dragged out heavy steel chains and locked the front gate tight. Then I hammered a sign into the ground so bold no one could miss it. Private property not for sale. Trespassers will be prosecuted. The words burned against the fresh white board like a line drawn in the sand. Neighbors slowed their cars, honked, even waved as they passed. They knew what I was doing. I wasn't just protecting my cabin. I was calling out Veronica and every vulture who thought this land was theirs to play with. For the first time, I felt control shift. The hunter had just become the hunted. Veronica's next play came in the form of a thick envelope delivered at sunrise. A lawsuit. According to her high-priced lawyer, my neglected property was lowering neighborhood values by $2 million. She wanted me barred from my own land until a judge ruled. But desperation makes people sloppy. My attorney, Tom Martinez, dug into the HOA's records and discovered the bombshell. The HOA wasn't even legally incorporated. Their entire existence was built on rejected paperwork. Every fine, every fee, every violation they'd issued was meaningless. Worse for her, bank records showed Veronica siphoning funds for personal use, spa treatments, vacations, luxury car payments. And just when it seemed like it couldn't get uglier, Tom found the link. A development company, Lakeshore Properties, had quietly paid Veronica $50,000. Her community improvement wasn't about neighbors. It was a conspiracy to pressure families out and sell land cheap. My cabin wasn't just a target, it was a pawn in a $1 million scheme. The town hall meeting was standing room only. Cameras lined the back wall. Neighbors packed the seats. And Veronica strutted in wearing navy blue like she was about to argue in the Supreme Court. But she didn't stand a chance. Tom presented the evidence. Missing funds, fraudulent letters, the video of her spray painting foreclosed on my workshop in the dead of night. Gasps turned to shouts. "Lock her up!" rang across the room. Then Ed Kowalski, an old veteran, stood trembling on his walker. "She made me mortgage my home to pay her fake fines." His voice cracked, but the truth cut sharper than any lawyer's words. The district attorney rose. "We are filing felony charges. Fraud, racketeering, money laundering." The room erupted. Veronica sat frozen, pale, as her empire of lies collapsed in front of 300 furious neighbors. 6 months later, Veronica traded her BMW for prison blues. The court ordered her to repay millions in stolen funds. Families who'd been drained finally got relief. But the true victory wasn't just money. It was the Veterans Memorial Garden built on disputed land. A place of peace that united the community instead of dividing it. Mackenzie helped design it, her name etched into the project that symbolized resilience. Now, every morning I sit on the porch, coffee steaming in the cool air, running my hand along the railings Fletcher carved decades ago. The loons still call across the lake. The cabin still stands, stronger than ever. Veronica thought she could erase a legacy. Instead, she cemented it.